Testing. Hey everybody, what's up? Okay, so I will be honest, I had my second drink already, so we're in for a wild night. You just kind of drink through your fears in the state of Florida because there's so much bad that's going on, but that's why we're here. We're here to do something about it. So give yourselves a round of applause for being here. So my name is Lee Perry. I have two incredible guests that are sitting up here. I'll let them introduce themselves in a moment, but I just wanted to do some quick housekeeping. First and foremost, tip the bartender. Yeah. She's hot, she's working so hard, she's making the drink strong. Tip the bartender. I have been coming here since I was 19 years old, and I'm not going to tell you how old I am now, but I will say that this place, saved my life. Living alone, working through college, trying to get my act together. This place was home base, so we have to tip our bartenders and keep this place alive and spend our money. The other thing is, Lee Perry, a little bit about me. I'm a busybody. All I want to do is save our democracy. So I do these events for free for the community so that we can get really awesome candidates on the ballot without having to spend tens of thousands of dollars to take PAC money and compromise in any kind of way. We want to get them on the ballot without having to say yes to things that they don't feel comfortable with, which has become the status quo for some reason. So if you're interested, now these slides are dense, but we're not going to go through the slides like that. We're going to have a conversation about what's on the slides really quick, and then take questions, and then let candidates who are here to collect petitions talk about what they're running on, right? So if you're interested in getting access to the slides and learning what the heck is going on, or talking to me or someone from our team about what you can do, you can sign up here on this form that I put on each of the tables to volunteer. I'm gonna meet with you one-on-one to figure out what you wanna do, what you have capacity to do. Do you wanna write thank you cards because you literally only have 2 hours a week to dedicate to a thing? I will plug you into that. Do you want to just put a yard sign or a bunch of yard signs in front of your house? I can plug you into that. I just want to I think people are scared to get involved because once you enter a campaign apparatus, you get a million texts, and then you get a million asks, and everybody wants you to do manual labor. So I want to troubleshoot and find a volunteer opportunity that fits your lifestyle so that it can be more approachable to get involved. So my contact information's on the website, my personal cell, the same old thing. And now I would like my guest speakers to please introduce themselves.
Okay. All right. Hi, folks. My name is Matt Grocholske. I'm the president of the Democratic Progressive Caucus in Florida. And through state legislative session, I've been going up every single year since about 2023. One tax on our LGBT community definitely intensified. One tax on abortion rights intensified. One tax on our ballot initiative process and our basic democracy here in the state of Florida intensified. I showed up despite not knowing what the hell I was doing, shaking in public comment doing it almost every single week. And now, going into 2026, when we do see so many attacks on our democracy, the Florida SAVE Act, congressional redistricting and gerrymandering that just passed the Florida House and Florida Senate today. Boo. And other attacks that don't even make sense, in past legislative sessions of spending precious legislative time in which we only have 60 days in the Florida legislative process to actually pass a budget to defend teacher pay, that type of thing. One, we spend time dedicated on renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. This
Spoiler.
Very stupid stuff that we keep on doing every year, just showing up in opposition to all these terrible attacks that we see on everyday Floridians.
Give Matt a round of applause, please. And Ethan was voluntold because because Ethan has too much brilliance in his brain to sit on the sidelines, so I told him to get up here.
You know, you kind of took that line from me, but I guess you're happy to own that. All right, hi folks. Like we said, I'm Ethan Temple. I was volunteered to do this, but I'm more than happy to be up here tonight if it means educating the public on the whole about what has happened in Tallahassee. A little bit about myself. I am actually a DCF student. I graduated my bachelor's in 2024, and I'm actually going to graduate with my master's next year. So it's kind of a bad thing. At the moment, I work with Kelly Martinez-Semran, Orange County Commissioner for District 5, as one of the research aides. And of course, in the advocacy sphere, I do a lot of legislative research and help advise me on some of the bills presented tonight. So,
and I'm running his campaign for Senate in 2028.
I really have to cover the spots here.
Well, you're on camera, so.
It's a lie. I tell you, it's lies.
Awesome. Okay, well, as I said, we're just gonna like really breeze through these slides. Don't take a picture of it. Just go ahead and message me. Oh my, this is my husband, by the way. Behind every great woman is a really hot man. And he's the one that does all the comms, the podcast, all the editing, any videos, any good lighting. Like, it's literally all him. So give Ernest a round of applause. He doesn't like the limelight, and frankly, he's over politics, but when he comes out here, I definitely owe him a favor, so your applause really helps me.
He's also getting free alcohol out of it, so there's that.
Exactly. Okay, so let's chat. So every single year, I do a Drink Beer Talk Climate, and every single year, it gets worse and worse and worse. Mostly I focus on like environmental issues. So we talk about like policies where they're taking away like our ability to control our own growth, our ability to like, you know, have access to transportation, like denying federal funding, billions of dollars to invest in clean energy, to be able to get like transportation diversification. Every year it's getting worse and worse and worse because it's like, they allow the partisanship to get a little bit out of control and take over. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. We have Jordan, council member from Eatonville here. We have an elected official among us. You snuck in. You snuck in. We are among greatness here. It is so nice to see you, and thank you so much for being here, Lavonda, as well. Anyway, back to my rant. So every single year, it seems like the legislation is getting worse and worse and worse. And since we have, I want to preface that even though we are Democrats here, this is not a partisan issue. Like, I would fight and fall on the sword for anyone that's willing to speak up against corporate greed, against these like grabs at power, against like the poison that they're putting in our food and water. If, regardless of the political party, because we all know that's BS, like the way that these corporations are doing things is they're finding candidates to run for office and just putting a D or an R next to their name based on whatever is convenient for that district. And they want us, you know, the everyday person who's just trying to make their bills meet and trying to like get through the day to be shepherded by those party affiliations because you think that they align with your like your morals. But I've met a lot of really good Republicans that aren't happy about what's going on. They just are fed misinformation. And I can't even sit here and act like I know everything and I've never been misinformed because, frankly, algorithms are designed to keep us running towards information that might not necessarily be the full truth, right? And so what we're here to do today is talk about the bills and talk about some of the ramifications of what these policies are going to do to our state, and then we're going to take action so that we can literally plug people into ways to get involved around a candidate that might actually be our voice and our champion. So with that being said, Matt.
Yes. Sorry, I was
I
talking
feel like a school
yapping
teacher.
to Ethan.
You literally just went viral, like fighting in Tallahassee yesterday. I've never seen anything like that. And I just have to say that, like, within the party dynamics, like Matt takes a lot of personal shots. People called Matt out and talk crap about Matt, and I'm putting you on the spot here, and I'm like maybe telling you new information, but like, if you are honest about the money, and if you are honest with morals about the way that the corruption is working, sometimes people within your own party will come for you too. And it's really, really sad because we're supposed to be all in this together. And Matt has been unapologetic in their stances on things that, to me, should be the next generation's expectations for our legislature. So Matt, why were you in Tallahassee yesterday?
Because Florida Republicans want to steal our democracy. They put forth a special session to talk about redistricting our congressional map based off of basically a lie. Their whole idea is that apparently Florida got cheated out on the census. And because of that, we need to cut Democratic seats and replace them with a bunch of Republican seats. Raise your hand if that makes any sense at all. See, well, one person,
No, it doesn't make sense.
See, it makes absolutely no sense that apparently the census being misreported means that Republicans should have more power in Washington. To me, actually, if we're talking about demographics underrepresented in the census, it's our Black, Hispanic communities, it's our marginalized communities that get underreported the most. So how does that mean that we have to add more white Republican seats to our congressional delegation? So to me, it makes no sense. So knowing that the Florida Republicans did this crazy game where they released the maps to the public and the legislature only 24 hours in advance of actually voting on it in the first place, and they didn't send it to the legislature first, they sent it to Fox News, where they claimed that they didn't do a partisan map, but the first maps that we all saw as the public and the legislature was a Republican color-coded map where the seats that are Republican are red, the Democratic seats are blue. How does that not talk about partisanship when drawing the maps? The first maps that we saw were just based off of partisanship. So I knew that they were going to obviously pass it because of corporations being supportive of our other party, and also the fact that this game has happened in Texas, it's happened in so many states across the country, so I knew in the Republican supermajority that they were going to pass it. Mm-hmm. So, I broke decorum. I screamed at the Republican lawmakers because so many people drove 4 hours, some people 6, 8 hours to be there, and they only gave us about 30 seconds to testify about future democracy. Decades and decades of policy, they only gave us 30 seconds.
Right.
Now, Angie Nixon went up to me and did an amazing display of courage on the House floor today when they were doing the vote, where she told them functionally that if democracy is gone, then our lawmakers need to actually stand up and fight for it every single day. So I'm happy to have a little Instagram clip, but I knew, people have to really speak up because, they're trying to steal our actual democracy every single day.
Thank you, Matt, for doing that. Thank you. So I just want to also, we're going to say Democrat and Republican a lot tonight, but I want to also mention that when you check campaign contributions, right now, Florida is #1 in the highest rate increases on power and utilities.
Right.
Florida Power and Light, Duke, TECO, these are utility companies that send armies of lobbyists to Tallahassee every single year, and they just last week put $19 million into Byron Donalds' campaign, okay? So when we say things like Democrat and Republicans, it's not about what Democrats and Republicans stand for.
it's about the companies that have just infiltrated the parties the deepest. And I say the deepest because Republicans have received more funding, but that doesn't mean that the Democrats' hands are completely clean either. So we do have to applaud the Republicans who voted with us on redistricting. I think we were able to flip. We were able to flip 3, but like there's hundreds of people in the legislature, you know, and that's how much the money penetrates. So we just have to be cognizant of that. Okay, so let's get started. We have a lot of slides to go through, but yeah. So we're going to talk about like reproductive rights, we're going to talk about tax cuts, we're going to talk about all these things. And again, we're going to fly through each section, so if you want access to the slides and you want access to everything, please sign up for the newsletter. We're going to blast it out tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't know why of all people you put me on here, because you know me.
Hey, we're going to try to keep this at an hour, you guys, okay?
Try me.
So let's talk about reproductive rights. So this is like one of the few places where hope is not completely lost, because some of the worst bills weren't able to get over the finish line. But I have to express to you, as a woman, these bills are so deadly to women. We see this all across the state, all across the country, where pieces of legislation that restrict women's access to health and medical procedures that could save their lives cause sometimes the mother to die. And so when they're talking about things like, sanctity of life and protection of a fetus, like it can sometimes mean that a mother's life is at risk as well, and we don't want to talk about that conversation in full. Matt, were you there for some of these bills?
Yeah, for the first 2 that we'll be talking about. Just so folks know, one of my first political advocacy jobs was actually with Planned Parenthood. So that, I think really showcased to me the direct importance of a lot of this legislation. I went on to work for the Yes on 4 campaign last election cycle, which sought to legalize abortion here in the state of Florida. And on election night, when we hit 57% of the vote and not 60% to actually pass our amendment, I remember a lot of people who were patients previously just coming up to me crying because they thought, honestly, at that moment, that the 6-week abortion ban, which obviously is basically effectively a near total abortion ban here in the state of Florida, was the worst to come. And now, we're still seeing, even though lots of these bills have not actually passed, they've been introduced past sessions. And this year, I was really scared actually that a lot of these were going to pass finally, because they were moving so fast through the process. And then obviously other issues like the budget, redistricting, that type of thing became even more important, it seems, to the legislature. So while we'll get a new governor come 2027.
Right, be careful what you wish for. We don't know.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully we get a good one. Lots of these bills can be introduced again. This parental rights one, for example, for years, has been one of the most disturbing bills for so many people because, say you have an abusive parent, you're in an abusive household. How are you going to be able to seek reproductive health care, especially if your abuser, the person that's making you get that health care in the first place, is a parent? What happens in that scenario? So that was something that got brought up directly. Again, so many children are scared of talking to their parents about their mental health care. That became a direct problem as a piece of legislation.
Especially trans kids.
Exactly, yeah. Nobody wants to tell their mom or dad that they are feeling suicidal, for example.
I had a very abusive dad. He wouldn't even buy me shampoo. My teachers used to buy me shampoo. Could you imagine if I was worried if I had an STD and I couldn't even get, the confidentiality and the ability to talk to a medical provider for my mental health care without asking my father? Yeah. So these are the decisions that everyday people have to think about.
And obviously, STI treatment is the biggest thing that people think about when it comes to this bill, but as I mentioned, mental health care is also a piece of this bill. So very basic fundamental healthcare decisions would be regulated and limited by this. Leah, I see you brought up the really bad abortion bill that we keep hearing every single year. It's this civil liability for the wrongful death of an unborn child. Planned Parenthood and other reproductive rights organizations call this bill the Abuser's Bill of Rights. And that's because similar legislation has been passed in states like Alabama, where domestic abusers have been actually able to sue their victims in the cases of actually seeking reproductive health care. And while they did tweak this bill heavily from last session to make it a little bit better, I would quotes better because this is still a bad bill for survivors. This is still definitely a directly harmful bill to survivors to actually seek reproductive health care. It criminalizes doctors and medical professionals deeply because then, a parent, for example, a father, doesn't even have to be the mother, can actually sue medical professionals for the cases of an unborn child, for example, for being lost, basically. So it's a part of this bill to basically establish that fetuses are children and that they are human beings. That's the ultimate penultimate description of this bill. So we'll have gone after, again, a full total abortion ban, not just that 6-week in reality.
So I'm going to skip through some of these other bills because we got a lot going on, but they all failed. So we're in a good place right now, but that doesn't mean that these bills aren't going to come back, right? And so we need to be diligent, and we need to invest in organizations like the ACLU and Planned Parenthood and the Yes on 4 campaign. I think Men's for Choice is coming back, right?
Yes, they do. So Men for Choice is an organization that's meant to actually bring men off the sidelines, their words, when it comes to fighting against these abortion bans and for reproductive justice. I happen to be one of those members, and they are everywhere now. So if you are very interested to learn more about their organization, let me or Matt know, because I actually coached him as a fellow. So
Back in the day.
God, was it 3 years ago?
Yeah, 3 years.
And now we're going to go into the fun topic of taxes. Who likes to talk about taxes? Oh, okay. Wow.
Hello.
I wasn't
Hi.
expecting that. So obviously we saw with the big, beautiful, pathetic bill that there was a huge transformation of wealth from like the middle class to the richest elite. And so what does that mean for states that are already pinching pennies, to rob the general fund for like their nonprofits like DeSantis, but also we have a really hard time funding affordable housing. We have a hard time funding a lot of these programs. And so with that, I'm gonna pass it over to Ethan, who knows all about taxes, and talk a little bit about some of the shortfalls that are happening right now due to federal subsidizing corporations.
Oh man, I was really looking forward to talking about HB 693. Oh, well.
We can go back.
Nah, it's fine. It's fine. So yes, like Lee had discussed up top, the one big beautiful bill, which is of course that giant tax cut that the Trump administration and the Congress had passed last year, transferred a quite significant amount of money from the middle class and the lower income portions of Americans to the very wealthiest. As a result of that, the state legislature is actually looking to remove themselves from that portion of the bill that would have allowed those federal corporate tax cuts specifically. So in this case, the state would actually be pulling out of a corporate tax, which is kind of funny considering they tend to do that quite a bit. But the shortfall would have been roughly to the tune of $3.5 billion, and that is not an easy thing to make up without increasing taxes on the state's end, and the state does not want to do that. So as a result, the state has sought to withdraw from that. Unfortunately, because of all the madness that's occurred in this session, they haven't really gotten to do that, and that is true for the broader budget as a whole. In fact, it is the only other constitutional requirement for the state is to form a budget. As of today, they have not done that.
The people you elected aren't doing their jobs, is what Ethan is trying to say. Like, the one thing we ask them to do when we vote for them is to, like, pass a budget, and they're not even able to do that, nor are they able to address this issue.
I was going to get to that point, thank you very much. But yes, so now there's actually going to be a special session on the 12th of May this year for them to reconvene. And yes, you may be thinking, did they just have a special session today? Yes, for redistricting. So they thought that redistricting and gerrymandering the living crap out of Orange County is a higher priority than the budget. The most important thing, so important that it's in the Constitution, is less important.
Yeah.
Marinate in that for a second while I continue to agonize in this corner.
I know, we're all agonizing together, but that's why we're here to drink, right?
Oh, I don't have any drink with me.
I honestly passed this slide because I had no idea what it means.
Right, so HB 693 was a bill that's meant to codify many of the portions of the One Big Beautiful Bill, namely its snap cuts. So as you know, the Republican Party is very keen on the so-called work requirements, which is to ensure that able-bodied workers actually work in order to get the benefits that are offered to them. The thing is, though, work requirements don't work. And that's not just me saying that on a political stump, that's actually empirically proven. And as a result of that, it's actually increased the cost to administer these programs and actually puts more people out of those programs through benefits cliffs. I'm not going to explain what that means. Just know that it's actually put a lot of people more into poverty because of a broken system like this. But beyond the requirements that have been in place by the OBBB that are being instituted through this bill, there are also other provisions that would actually allow for groups like, say, EMTs, social workers, and physicians to enter what's known as a licensure compact. This allows EMTs, social workers, and physicians, all our medical professionals, to work outside the state in times of disaster. So say, for example, in the event a hurricane strikes, I know, shocking, I would go to hurricanes, strikes in South Carolina, for example. Florida EMTs, if this bill were to have passed, which it didn't, thank God, they would actually be able to work in South Carolina as licensed EMTs. Which, on prima facie, it's a good thing because it allows for disaster recovery and relief. But it does overwork our EMTs, our physicians, and social workers, and they aren't being paid very well right now. And they are being overworked to God knows how long, and I would know my dad used to be an EMT, and I know many myself, and let me tell you, it is a miserable job sometimes. So that's kind of what I had to say on the matter.
There's so much information in his brain.
Forgive me if I spoke a little too fast.
That's wild. I had no idea, but you know, that's why we voluntold him to be up here.
Yes.
So let's talk about unions. So how many of you are part of a union or know someone who's part of a union? Raise your hand. So unions could be so much more prolific here if we didn't year over year have union busting legislation that's trying to cripple our ability to have workers' rights all across the state. And this year, I think, was one of the worst.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I remember when these bills kind of got first heard, we actually didn't really think that they were moving through the legislative process at all. Because they kind of became things at the middle of session, which is typically when bills start to die out. And then actually the week that in the Senate side, it was actually supposed to receive its second vote, actually got temporarily postponed because 1296, according to staff analysis, was actually unconstitutional in the Florida Constitution. But they proceeded to actually just pass it anyways.
Well, let's talk about like how do unions function? Like how do they collect dues, and how does this bill specifically target unions from being able to hit that limit of people that they need in order to stay incorporated as a union?
Well, I am not a union specialist. However, I will say the real danger of 1296, according to a lot of public sector unions, especially our classroom teachers associations, for example, was that it would have bumped up the percentage that people in the workforce need to actually sign on to be a dues paying union member.
Yeah.
Which is the real danger, is that obviously about there's still a lot of boundaries that people do have to joining a labor union, right?
Like they're trying to add more obstacles, like even the ability to have automatic dues being paid is causing more issues, so that people have to now figure out a way to like renew, and it becomes like they're convoluting the process to make it harder for them to get that threshold that they need.
I think somebody in the back has a quick thing.
Every union in the state is 50% membership, except for teachers has to be 60.
Right. Yeah.
Do you want to come sit up here with us? I would love to have you be a guest speaker up here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Are you a union member, sir?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about how this bill is impacting you?
I'm going to sit right here.
Yeah, go ahead. Go for it.
So, every union in the state of Florida has to hit 50% membership to be certified, other than teachers' unions. Teachers' unions, they put a threshold of 60% to be able to get recertified. There is a huge push, and it came really close, but CTA in Orange County Public Schools, which I'm a part of,
Woo!
reached that threshold just 2 weeks ago. So we are recertified as a union. But the thing is, the school I teach at, West Orange, is losing 10 teachers this year.
Oh my God.
Olympia is losing 26 teachers this year. And it goes down the line, because of the budget. We lost in our school alone $5 million in the last 3 years. So we have to make that up. And what do they cut? Teachers.
Yep.
Olympia is in for a really hard time this year because of the amount of teachers. And then you have, with the 7 schools that closed, they're trying to find spots for all those teachers. And what that does is it brings down the union membership. So it makes it even harder.
Yeah. Thank you so much. What's your name, sir?
My name is Roy Webster. I'm actually running for the 11th Congressional District.
Hey! I've seen you on TikTok. Oh, that's right. We're going to have you come and speak at the end about your race, okay? Give it up for a union member in the house. One thing, we didn't talk about the vouchers. We didn't talk about like why so many schools are closing. That was actually, I think, last session. But, they're coming after our public schools. They're trying to defund our schools so that we can take our public dollars and subsidize charter schools and private schools. And it's really hurting our communities. And go ahead. I know you're eager.
Well, I just want to point out, the last bullet point, kind of something I mentioned again, is the fact that staff analysis found this bill to be unconstitutional. The committee's staff, which again are committee staff employed by a Republican supermajority, agreed that a bill might be unconstitutional, and we still passed it. And I think that is probably one of the more disturbing points of this legislative session. I think really set the tone for this gerrymandering scheme that we're seeing today, of the fact that the legislature is literally passing bills that the legislature agrees is unconstitutional. And I'll never forget, I forget the exact bill. I think it was the Trump Act, which was the state's, yes, it's called the Trump Act, the state's comprehensive immigration bill that they passed in a special session where it was about, I think, 80 pages. And again, they sent the lawmakers it literally that morning at 9 a.m. And the first committee stop for it was 10:30 a.m. They gave an hour and 30 minutes for lawmakers to read an 80-page immigration bill. But I'll never forget, on the floor session of the state Senate, now Congressman Randy Fine, boo, clearly said that they pass unconstitutional bills to hope that the Supreme Court deems them constitutional, which is so deeply disturbing to
the
think
governor
about.
appointed Supreme Court.
Right.
But also, lawsuits are slow and expensive, and so they're trying to drain these organizations that rely on our contributions to go to court and to fight these people.
Right. And so I just want to kind of paint that picture again, that our legislature Even if we keep saying it's unconstitutional, which I think a lot of this stuff is unconstitutional.
They know.
They don't care. And they will admit it in floor session. I mean, again.
Cheater's gonna cheat.
Yeah. Again, yesterday we saw on the redistricting stuff, which I know we'll get back into. They admitted that the lines were drawn knowing partisanship, which is illegal and unconstitutional under our voter-approved constitutional amendments. So that's the
It's a race against the
scaring
clock.
fact. Yeah.
It's a race against the clock.
I also wanted to point out as well that this bill did not come from their sponsors. In this case, Senator Jonathan Martin of Port St. Lucie, I can't remember, but we'll talk about him in a minute.
You have no clue about.
But it actually came from what's known as the Freedom Foundation, which is a think tank headed in Washington State that has a teachers union alternative based out of Michigan. In other words, we have legislators who are being fed bills from out of state in order to impose their interests on our politicians. What kind of sense does that make, eh? Seriously.
Ethan, how old are you?
I'm not at all obliged to disclose that.
Matt, how old are you?
22.
So you know why these young people are getting so involved with politics? Because they feel like they have no other choice. Because their future is literally being stripped from them every single year, and they are two of the most brilliant people I've ever met, which is at the same time as inspirational as it is harrowing for me, because I turn to them to know what's going on, and yet, like, you guys should be getting drunk at a bar downtown, like twerking or something. Like, you shouldn't be paying attention to this. And yet you pay attention to this more than anyone else that I know, because, like, this is the fight for our future here.
Get me like 2 more of these.
I will.
And maybe we'll talk.
Well, we have to move on because we weren't supposed to take that long.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, and then of course, you know, I just want to bring up the minimum wage, because we worked so hard to get a constitutional amendment passed to increase the minimum wage, and of course, they were jumping all over themselves to like try and stop that and slow that process.
And this bill would have gone against young people especially, and people that are new to the workforce, because this would have cracked down on apprenticeships, internships, that type of thing. So people that arguably right now especially need the most financial relief possible, because, you know, the economic state of the world is really bad. So these are, you know, the exact types of people that actually I would beg to say, you know, the $15 minimum wage was placed onto the ballot in the first place to benefit. So this directly goes against those workers, and again is also deeply unconstitutional because we did codify $15 minimum wage into our Constitution.
Florida can be woke from time to time. You know, it's just they want to stop us from having that ability. And after we got that $15 minimum wage, that's when they increased the threshold of getting those constitutional amendments by petition onto the ballot to 60%, which is what led us to losing our reproductive rights. And marijuana. Marijuana lost. I mean, come on. Never smoked it a day in my life. Property tax. Siani. Property taxes.
That's crazy.
What pays for our property taxes? Like, what are our property taxes paid for? Anybody know? Schools.
62% of funding for schools comes from property.
60%. Oh,
Damn.
62%. Lord Jesus. Oh my God. What about firefighters? Infrastructure, police, drainage, making sure that our communities aren't flooding. What else? Sidewalks, pedestrian infrastructure. So like we all agree that like we like taxes when they work for us, right? Okay, well, why would they want to go after our property taxes?
Because it's a very, very, very helpful political tool for them. I'm going to become so completely honest with everybody here. They really do not give a rat's ass about your
That's the first time he's ever cursed in his life.
Clearly you forget what I'm like in the office, but no, seriously. First, I want to level with all of you here. I understand the allure of the property tax debate, because life is getting very expensive for all of us. And I do not want to discredit that from anybody here. And, because far be it from me, I'm not a homeowner. I'm barely even considered a renter. But that being said, without a stable source of revenue, your local government will be completely and utterly screwed. And in the downstream, so will everybody else in this room as well. So I really like that we kind of started off with what the where the revenues go for property taxes. But I actually want to get, I don't know, how much money do you think we generate in property tax revenue? What do you think the county budgeted at?
I know you know it off the top of your head for some reason.
Take a guess. Swing it.
100 billion.
Half a bill.
$1 billion in revenue.
What's our budget for our entire county?
8.3 billion. That property taxes make up 1/8% of all the revenue that Orange County, one of the largest counties in this state, with a population of 1.5 million people, generates. And I wish to note as well that that's actually an increase of roughly 7.6% in property taxes. And I should note as well, the county, to my knowledge, did not increase millage rates. And if they did, it's a very small amount.
Yeah. Well, we also,
Thank
do you guys know what FAFO means?
Don't you dare bring that up.
So the governor and the Department of Commerce chair Angolia.
The chief financial officer, Blaise Ingoglia, who used to be a state senator, actually issued an audit on all counties, specifically blue counties.
Called FAFO, which means fuck around and find out.
Can I finish one thought?
Damn.
I wanted to make sure people understood the acronym that our legislators are using to audit our local governments.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was him.
Also, this is a feisty ass panel. I don't know what's going on. I'm in between like two people fighting right now. It's crazy.
Don't worry, we'll get you into it.
This is what you get when you put me up on the stage.
I'm FAFOing right now.
Yes, you are.
But let me explain to you, when they sent a report to Orange County of the findings of the egregious spending, it was things like routers for kids during COVID who didn't have access to internet, who were doing their homework outside of like a Dunkin' Donuts. It was like pedestrian safety infrastructure, like they called that wasteful spending. Homeless services were considered wasteful spending. And then they did this year-long campaign about how Orange County's budget skyrocketed, which, by the way, was also because Joe Biden gave us an incredible amount of resources to recoup our costs from COVID, having to do massive amounts of vaccines and PPE and all these things to keep our people safe. So our budget did have an influx. And in that case, they wanted to try and target many counties, including Orange County, as wasteful spenders for things like pedestrian safety infrastructure and homeless services.
And I should note as well that if we are to get rid of the property tax, which I should note, HJR 213 actually caps the increases in assessments. So in other words, the property taxes that you levy will be capped at a certain amount for the increases in your property values. Because for as much as we've seen a significant increase in our property taxes, it did not come as a result of the millage rate increasing. No, instead it came as a result of our property values increasing. Because infrastructure was being built in and around Orange County, and the land in the county was getting more and more valuable. And that's what we want. But the state is actively using that very mentality against us in order to justify cutting these taxes, and as a result, cutting services that we rely on, even if we don't really take it for granted.
I think Ethan's like 21. You're
Keep
like
guessing.
21.
You're gonna get it eventually.
22.
You'll get it eventually.
Who knows this much information about property taxes at 22 years old? You know what I was doing at 22? Not that. Anyway, let's move through. I don't think people care about property taxes.
One more point. I should note as well is that before we move on to this, if the property taxes are to be cut, estimates have shown that sales taxes would have to increase by double what it is currently in order for us to even make up a third of that revenue amount. So that means we'd be paying anywhere between 12 to 14% more in sales tax, which means we'd be paying more in sales tax more often. which does not seem very sustainable in a cost of living crisis.
Or just live with broken infrastructure for like 20 years.
Oh, don't get me started on that.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So let's talk about these. By the way, there's like mega churches moving into Florida all the time, while small mom and pop churches are like dying and not having enough resources. And so there's legislation that was trying to strip local control. It's all, I thought that like Republicans were all about like, you know, getting big government out of our decision making. And now for some reason, these past 2 or 3 years have been all about preemption and getting rid of small government's voice. I don't understand that, but that's where we're at. Any closing remarks on property taxes before your brain explodes, Ethan?
I'm not even close to 25% right now. Keep throwing it at me.
Okay, great.
Oh, fun.
We're gonna fly through this.
Try me.
But we brought up home rule. I'm an environmentalist first. I like people. You guys are okay. Like I like people. People are great. But like animals speak to me, you know, our ecosystems really speak to me. And in doing conservation work and in trying to educate people about ways that lobbyists of the mega developers have been utilized in ways to influence legislators to stop our local ability to slow growth. It was on crack cocaine this year. There were 32 land use bills that were actively trying to take away our home rule and stop our local elected officials' ability to say, hey, maybe we want our wetlands because maybe we don't want to be Houston, Texas. Maybe we don't want to like allow people. No, Houston developed all of its wetlands and literally people died.
That's true.
Because of the flooding.
That's true.
Like if we continue to build indiscriminately in places where the growth is supposed to be the lungs of our earth,
Not Houston.
then what's going to happen is the flooding is going to get so out of control that we're going to build affordable housing, which is not actually affordable, in our wetlands and put people who are paycheck to paycheck in danger, which is already happening in a crazy amount. And as an environmentalist who's trying to fight these, you know, developments, I'm told, well, you don't care about our black and brown community who needs housing. Most of the housing that's being built in Florida right now are mega developments that start at 600,000. Our local economy does not have the wages, thanks to Disney and our tourism industry, does not have the wages to sustain that level of housing. What they are doing is trying to tie the hands of our local, elected officials so that all the people that are moving in from Miami who are wealthy and are able to move because of sea level rise, who are being displaced, can have somewhere to go here. And it's really disheartening because we need real affordable housing in the urban core where there's access to transportation options and access to pedestrian safety infrastructure. The more you sprawl out, the more you spread resources. The more you develop in, the more that you concentrate resources. And that's why we need investments in the core, right?
There's a little urban planning mantra that usually defines cities in one of three ways. You could either be New York City, you could be Chicago, or you could be Houston. We're closer to Houston right now, and it ain't a good thing. Let me just say that much. Exactly. And Lee pretty much hit on all those points, but it is born from a genuine concern over the need of affordable housing. But that being said, the way by which the state continues to proceed through all this is fundamentally flawed because it's trying to use a one-size-fits-all approach to counties that don't really have the facilities or the capacity to do any of it because they are simultaneously being preempted by the state in various things. And I know we need to move on, that's why she gave that spiel. Lee.
So moral of the story is, luckily a lot of those bad bills did not pass. Some of them were absolutely egregious, like wanting to approve massive developments without local governments being able to have any say or any public input. They died, but they're coming back. Like, we already know that there are legislators who are whipping votes right now. Not every bad bill died. There are still some others that passed, and we can talk about that, but I would be here literally all night, and we would all just like fall asleep here and start our commune tonight if we really dove into those themes. So anyway, just know that the worst of trying to preempt and take away our local growth control is like a major priority. There's over 160 lobbyists that go up to Tallahassee to just hand over legislation to elected officials to say, take away local control and stop people from passing things like our local rural boundary, right? So we're gonna keep fighting. Matt, let's talk about ways that they've been coming after our civil liberties.
This is my niche, unfortunately. I'm going to stand up even. So if you've ever yelled or maybe cussed at an elected official.
Never.
I would never, especially after redistricting. You could be deemed in the state of Florida now to be a domestic terrorist. And that is crazy.
Oh, shit.
That's so fucking
Honey,
crazy.
do you know where the bail money is? It's under the bed.
But so this HB 1471 started out because the governor decided to randomly declare CARE, the Council of American Islamic Relations, a peaceful organization that is dedicated towards Muslim civil rights, Palestine, these types of issues relating to the Middle East and our Muslim community. That I will say, there is some association with some past terrible people. Just to point out, though, the CEO of Hobby Lobby literally donated and purchased artifacts from ISIS. So if we're talking about people donating to terrorism, I mean, Hobby Lobby, which donates to the RNC, does, but we'll get past that point. So this bill started as an anti-Sharia law task force, an anti-Sharia law bill. Who the fuck in the state of Florida is believing in Sharia law? It's a non-existent problem. It obviously is, and we have nobody in our state government that is advocating for Sharia law. And to be clear as well, even though obviously not every Muslim believes in Sharia law, obviously because, basic common sense, we don't have a single Muslim member of the state legislature. We don't. We barely have any Muslims elected to local office, and this is why the state government knew this year, especially because, I'll just point out, last election cycle is when we lost our one Muslim member of the Florida House, Christopher Benjamin, who became a judge. So they knew right after that moment that they can attack our Muslim community intensely this legislative session. Mm-hmm. So they proposed this bill to directly go against our Muslim community members, and Hillary Cassell, who is the state representative who sponsored this bill, she directly, actually, just to point out, left the Florida Democratic Party because she believes that it isn't pro-Israel enough. Which, as the president of the Democratic Progressive Caucus of Florida, I can tell you, definitely not the case. So this bill was designed to go against our Muslim community members, but also our pro-Palestine student advocacy organizations. That became apparent that she was trying to knock all of these people who organize, PSL, and you can believe whatever you want when it comes to their advocacy and what they believe in, but these people have been peaceful in the state of Florida. So the fact that we want to screw them up, remove their education, and declare that these students, who again are peaceful, are domestic terrorists in the state of Florida is a joke. And this again was to go against our immigrant community members as well, to make it easier to expel them, deport them, and send them to a concentration camp. That is why this bill got proposed.
So I
And
know I keep
that's the
joking about
tragedy.
like running Ethan for Senate, but I'm like priming Matt to run for governor. Like
I don't want to do that one, but
I want you guys
Really
to
don't.
see greatness here. Thank you for that work that you did, because this is actually really important.
Thank you. And I want to point out as well, I actually went up with CARE for their lobby day at the Capitol. And while we were on the bus, the Attorney General, who was claiming that we were inciting violence, even though it was the most peaceful group of people. Hell, most of the people that were with us, no offense to my older white ladies in the room, they were 70-year-old women who just were the sweetest grandmas I've ever seen. And the Attorney General tweeted out, domestic terrorists are going to be at the Capitol. So we'll be sending in all the police. And usually when you're in the rotunda doing a press conference, it's usually about 3 police officers there to just watch and make sure that nothing goes crazy, right? There were 15 security officers for a group of 40 people.
Yeah.
You have to think about the connotations and the clear Islamophobia that because some people who identify as Muslim are going to be at the Capitol, apparently that means that they're going to fucking bomb the Capitol, is what the Attorney General thought.
I need another drink.
Yeah, I need another beer. But that's exactly the type of fear-mongering that the state is doing about groups like CARE. And I think that's one of the most disgusting things we saw through this legislative session. And sorry, Lee, I'm going to keep on going on this. You know, they passed a resolution. Again, we have a 60-day Florida legislative session. We didn't pass a budget. We didn't pass the one constitution.
They didn't do their
required
main
thing.
job.
But we actually passed a resolution condemning the persecution of Christians in Nigeria. And now it is a tragedy. It seriously is a tragedy what is happening in Nigeria. But Webster Barnaby, who went viral a few years ago for saying that trans people were mutants and imps comparable to the X-Men. That's a serious thing he said
That's a
on the
direct
House
quote.
floor. He went on this Islamophobic rant to the max, where he said that Muslims were at war with the United States of America.
And that they were less than dogs.
That they were less than dogs, and that they were disgusting creatures.
Your tax dollars pay his salary.
So we, instead of actually, again, focusing on passing a budget, passing an affordability agenda, we heard through this legislative process 6 bills to deal with the Muslim community and to condemn them as people less than dogs. Mm-hmm. A group that is so small in the state of Florida, and again, don't have anybody representing them in Tallahassee.
Right.
That is so insane to me that we talked about this so much through the process, and that this stuff can even materialize in the state of Florida because we're so scared of people that we don't want to hear from.
I love when you pop off. It makes me very inspired. And the fear is the point, right? Which is why I brought us to the anti-DEI bill, where, you know, right now our mayor here in Orange County, Mayor Demings, he has several appointees to help with outreach to our Hispanic community, our LGBTQ community, our Black community. He has these like specific staff members, a part of his administration, that are to organize events, even for veterans. Like, he has very specific staff to do these types of outreach and to make sure that we're spending time using public time to do events. And now that's all at risk because what actually was signed into law is this anti-DEI bill, which would actually hold local governments accountable for using public dollars to do diversity, equity, and inclusion. For some reason, we don't like that.
Yeah, so I'm also a member of the county's Membership and Mission Review Board, which, so that folks know, is kind of the county advisory board that helps select people to participate on other county advisory boards, right? And also kind of sets the mission, the tone, kind of helps do that for all of our county advisory boards. And we've actually already seen how impactful this bill can be, and also, again, how stupid this bill is. We had to remove language from the county charter, or appeal that, because it mentions references of advisory boards being representative of the county. So I guess we can't be representative of our community anymore at all on these advisory boards. We had to get rid of an advisory board, I believe that was called the Minority-Owned Businesses Advisory Board. And unfortunately, I hope that beer is for me, Lindsay.
Are you not in love with Lindsay Snyder? Yeah.
She's the best. She's the...
I mean, we also got rid of a lot of grants for like LGBTQ kids to be able to have funding
Right.
to do plays and different like representation with our arts and cultural committee. There's been so many attacks on the ways that our public dollars have been supporting different people who are marginalized in our community.
And if we have a county advisory board that can't be representative of the county, then what's the point of having an advisory board or advisory boards in the first place? And what is representative of our community exactly? What does that mean? So there's a lot of litigation that's being filed about this specifically. But again, if we can't have boards that are seeking to listen from certain demographics in our community, then again, what is the point of having community feedback when we can't hear from the people that need to be represented the most? So this is why, again, the bill is crazy to me. And I remember during debate as well, they definitely went full-blown mask off, because for things like St. Patrick's Day, they'd say, oh, this doesn't impact St. Patrick's Day. Well, that's a cultural festival, right? So what is DEI then if it's not including the Irish? Is it just Black people and Hispanic people in the eyes of the legislature?
Well, it's
I'll
that
be honest.
lawsuits are slow, and that in order to, they know most of the bills are not constitutional. It's just about how you implement and when they choose to weaponize the legislation.
Yeah, and another thing that should probably be discussed with these anti-DEI bills is that it actively attacks our communities in more than just the ways that have been discussed by Lee and by Matt. It also comes after the community's identity as a whole. And it's supposed to divide individuals more than it is to unite. And that there is the point of all of this. It is to prevent everybody here from gathering like this. This is a community. This bill does not want to form communities. Because people know that when communities form, ideas are exchanged. And when ideas are exchanged, critical thinking occurs. And I'm not going to make a blanket statement as to whether or not the Republican Party wants critical thinking not to be banned. But it really does make one question what exactly they're trying to do with this kind of stuff. Because ultimately, the point of Orlando, of Orange County, is to be this cultural hub. Miami-Dade is supposed to be a cultural hub where you have a mix of Hispanic communities come together. Tallahassee, Tampa, Gainesville, that's Swamp.
Hey.
UCF not here. Sorry.
We like our Gainesville friends.
Damn.
Damn.
I'm only going after UF, okay? As a knight, I have to go after them by law.
Oh yeah, Ethan's a soccer.
I'm not even a
person,
Gator.
and they're indoctrinated.
Yeah, sorry about that, folks. But no, my point in all of this is that. But yes, thank you very much. That's a conversation for later, pal. Okay.
We're not going there.
Anyway, my point in all this is the point. This is exactly what these bills are trying to keep us from doing, is to fraternize, have fun, and be a community, to prevent us from having this exchange of ideas. And the whole point of banning this stuff, isn't it perfect? Sure, nothing is perfect. But we're supposed to have these sorts of conversations in order to get close to perfection for them. Flat out banning them prevents people from ever doing that.
So let's violate the law.
I think we already are right now by just doing this event, actually. I think I'm gonna go to jail.
And in doing so, it actually deprives us of our tourism capacity as well, because we are such a cultural hub.
Really
Our
far.
pride events are
Here we go.
the pride of Orange County. We have a whole women's soccer team, football team, based named after Orlando Pride. So what then is the point in all of this if it's just to deprive the state of Florida if it's one big asset? It's diversity.
They also want us to keep historic monuments of racists up as well. There's that as well.
Just want to point out, this guy has not had like any drinks, and he's starting like bar fights out here.
Can we give him a drink?
Second off, Jerry, just so you know, you just said let's break
Harry
the law.
is my tab.
Well, you know, you just said let's break the law, but again, I mean, might be a domestic terrorist now, so I mean, it's
We're
crazy
all gonna
up
be in
here.
a cell together. It's gonna be great.
Maybe after a Trump call.
Okay, so we're just talking a little bit about these bills. I mean, you know, what's happening right now is that people are becoming more and more woke, and we're starting to realize that maybe there's some blemishes in our history that we want to maybe change course and maybe get some other funding for removing monuments or reallocating funds for new monuments. And Florida wants to stop you from being able to remove any historic monuments, even if it's from people that were trying to overthrow the government because they wanted to have slaves. Moving on. That's the actual fact. We're going to talk about climate change.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Do you guys love the Green New Scam? Is what Trump keeps calling it. So this crazy preemption bill kind of snuck up on a lot of environmental groups. I remember early in session, I was like, hey guys, this actually might be a really bad
problem.
bill.
No one thought it was going to move.
And nobody thought it was going to move. I remember in my first state senate hearing, a local lawmaker, actually, I'm not going to say who, came up to me and was like, hey, you gotta speak on this shit, because he didn't think it was going to pass, but he thought that was going to establish a really dangerous conversation when it comes to climate policy. And then, just so we know, it passed this session. And one of the first organizations I got politically involved in Orlando is Sunrise Movement Orlando, which I know we have a flyer for May Day, which is a demonstration that they're trying to help lead on May 1st. But it's a Gen Z-led, climate-based organization fighting for, environmental policy. And, this is such a disaster for our local governments, of them not being able to actually choose if they want net zero climate emission policies. And again, how do you fully measure necessarily net zero? Does a city, for example, just having a clean energy program mean that's a net zero program? That type of stuff was asked in committee, but one of the craziest things I'll never forget is that in the first state senate hearing, the bill sponsor, Brian Avila, who's from the Miami-Dade area, he seems like his justification of introducing this bill was because he thought that the clean buses in Miami just kind of sucked. So he was like, yeah, this is a bad investment. So I think all clean energy local policy needs to go out the window because I didn't like the buses being purchased. Just that
Which we got
one
federal grants from the Inflation Reduction Act.
Right. So that one local government buying clean buses means that we need a state policy against clean energy now.
I mean, Joe Biden
nuts.
was a terrible communicator, but he got us almost $11 billion for things like clean transition to school buses that were electric.
Right.
I want to go off cuff here and ask my friend Christy to come up and maybe talk a little bit about the Stanton coal plant and some of the work that Jen Cleo UCF is doing in response to some of these attacks, if you'd like to.
You
I'm not really up to date on that.
Okay, well that's okay. No. I mean, you're the person that's my favorite person. So
I would try.
give Christy a round of applause.
She just completely put you on the spot.
I just put you on the spot because I have a microphone and I feel powerful.
Jesus.
Look, she's been
So
giving out
talk
information,
about
okay?
Jen Cleo and what's going on.
Yeah, so I'm with an organization called the Clio Institute, and we have a youth advocacy program called Gen Clio. We have chapters at UCF and Valencia, and so right now they are organizing locally to hold OUC accountable, essentially to not invest in fossil gas and to make a transition directly to solar power instead of continuing to invest in gas. And so right now, OEC is going through something called the EIRP process, the Electric Integrated Resource Plan. And so essentially that process is how they generate electricity for the next 30 or however many years. And they go through this process, I believe, every 5 years, where they update their plan for how they produce electricity. And basically, right now, to my understanding, OEC is not offering public comment sessions for this process, which is going to literally determine where our electricity comes from.
They're a public utility, by the way.
Yes, a municipally owned utility, OEC, so the city owns it. It's not an investor-owned utility, so they're not paying the shareholders. And so,
we need to raise some help from Mayor Dan Dyer and the soup account.
Tell him, Eugene.
Indeed. Yeah, and so there are OEC commission meetings that happen, I think, on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. How convenient for working people to attend, right? And so our Gen Clio youth members are organizing to hold OEC accountable to clean energy goals and things like that, especially in this process where they are making these decisions behind closed doors with developers and things like that, and like rigging the results, the outcomes of these community input sessions to essentially get the results that they want, which is continuing to invest and rely on coal. And OUC, don't quote me on this, but I think almost a quarter of OUC's energy still comes from coal right now, and that's what.
They have 2 generators still.
Right, two generators at Stanton Energy Center, the power plants, and so
24%.
24%, yeah. So almost a quarter of their energy still comes from coal, which compared to even the investor-owned utilities aren't relying that much on coal. Like OUC loves to brag about how much of a leader they are in terms of clean energy and things like that, but they're like basically renting the solar power that they get, and so. Yeah.
And Christy said she's not caught up on the issue. Yeah, give Christy a round of applause. So I wanted to bring that up because, Buddy Dyer came out swinging when I was first a little tiny itty baby little climate activist. And I was like, oh my God, Buddy Dyer, you signed on to this commitment to be like, you had a net zero plan. And this legislation at the state is like a direct attack against that. But behind the scenes, we have these egregious rate hikes, and we have this manipulation and bullying that's happening with these utilities on our local municipal-owned utilities to do rate hikes, to limit net metering, to not transition fully off of coal, because frankly, they don't want people to feel like we have a say and that we have power and that climate change is real. They want us to be gridlocked, and they want us to cater to the coal industry because it's a money-making business that is poisoning us and making us some of the worst contaminated air in the entire state. We have an engineer in the house, by the way.
Monopoly of power plants. That's what it's about. It has nothing to do with coal. It's monopoly control of energy generation. And it takes goddamn power.
I'm not inviting you up here, Eugene, because it would be another 3 hours. But yes, we hear you though.
Well, you have on my little breakdown of what you want to talk about, one of my favorite bills to talk about.
What is that?
So there is this very fun bill, and if you went to the last Orange County Progressive Caucus meeting, you would know I love talking about airports and how much I hate the damn Colonial Airport and how that shit needs to be abolished. Close it. But there's this crazy bill that you might have seen in the news. It was sponsored in the House by this representative named Meg Weinberger. People also call her MAGA Meg. And she filed a bill to rename the Palm Beach Airport to Trump International Airport, which is fucking crazy.
Which would cost a lot of public money, by the way.
Yeah, it costs a lot,
It's
but
gonna be on the passports too now.
Eugene's had a couple beers.
Yeah, Eugene's had a few. But you know, some of the scary parts of this bill is the fact that it gives a lot more state control over a lot of our airports, and renaming them. I know lots of people had a discussion if MCO could get renamed to something crazy like Charlie Kirk Airport or something like that. So this is kind of a scary lack of local control again.
I just want to go back one slide real quick about the phosphate mining industry. So one of our third largest exports is phosphate. It actually is used for fertilizer, and it's part of why manatees are dying across our state, because we over-fertilize in an area where limestone is the bedrock of our soil, and so when you fertilize excessively, it leaches into our aquifer and into our waterways and causes algae blooms. And the phosphate mining industry here has sent an army of lobbyists, just like all the corporate interests you pay to play here in the state, in order to be able to poison people without legal ramifications. And so this year, we saw legislation that was signed, moved but not yet signed, to basically make it so that they were, legally shielded. But that's because this year they wanted to actually propose that legislation would allow them to be legally shielded so they can sell their deposit land, so where they take this radioactive material, right? So they mine out the phosphate, and the leftover material, the byproduct of that, is actually radioactive. So in 2022, they passed a bill to allow us to use that radioactive material to be composited into our roadways, because it's a cheap filler material for them to make concrete. They were in trouble. They lost a lawsuit where they dumped a bunch of toxic waste into Piney Point, which was a huge issue. And so with that, they want to continue to be legally shielded from poisoning us. And so they do things like tertiary drilling, where they dump their toxic waste into the third layer of our aquifer, which is the same layer that we're now saying we don't have enough water and we're pumping our next generation's water from, for all this development that we're approving that we don't have enough water for. And they also want to build homes on the sites where they're depositing some of this byproduct radioactive waste. So it wasn't enough that they were getting permission to put this radioactive material that definitely causes cancer into our roads. Now they want to use their mining sites and transform them into literally developments where people are going to live and their kids are going to play. So it failed this time around, but it definitely is going to come back. Wait, no, I think it actually passed.
It's been enrolled, but it has not yet been signed by the governor.
Oh, thank you. See, this is why I keep Ethan around. This is why I volunteer him to do things.
This is why I regret being up here, because I volunteered to be, QAing her presentation.
So we're jumping around really quickly because we want to give candidates who are here a chance to give their spiel. But
I have so much shit to say about this.
Okay,
so,
go for it.
Let me go on.
Go on your rant.
Yeah, I gotta get up again. I hate redistricting.
This is like church. You have to get up.
Yeah, this is the shit that keeps me up at night. And I really do want to kind of bring back a lot of the points that we kind of discussed already to emphasize them, because this seriously is probably the most important
That's
topic
us
we'll
in
be
the
talking
middle,
about today.
right there.
So again, when we first saw this gerrymandering scheme get devised, including a lot of states like Texas, and then Democrats retaliated in Virginia and California, mind you, again by popular referendum. Voters had a decision on if they want to gerrymander their states to favor the Democratic Party.
In California and Virginia.
In California and Virginia, and they decided to do it. Now, DeSantis, this is me going out on a limb, knows that he is not going to be governor come 2027. So,
Round of applause for that.
Yeah, we'll get more into that, maybe. Give me some more beers and I can talk about that. But, you know, we decided to, you know, give him the power to draw a new congressional map. Some things to kind of denote. First off, this was supposed to be a conversation during regular session. Lee, if you could actually go back to the map, because I'm going to talk about it. This was supposed to be a recurring discussion during legislative session. Every single week, they were supposed to gather community input. The governor decided to instead declare a special session. Sorry, I'm going to cough. Oh God, I'm dying. He's got hit on me. Anyways, this is getting to my throat because I was screaming so loud.
Explain a special session though.
So, special session was called by the governor to basically limit public input. That is abundantly clear. The House did not want this to happen. So, he declared a special session to limit public input. It first got called to be last week, 21st of April, but believe it or not, allegedly, according to the governor's office, they did not have this drawn until about 3 days ago. The map for basically the rest of this
map
decade,
that will dictate the rest of our lives.
Right. Was not drawn until 3 days ago. They had a full 60-day legislative session to draw one. They had, you know, more weeks, and they just decided to basically draw this on a whim. And the map that you're seeing right now,
there's probably some intern that was like,
some poor intern, but this map got drawn and sent before being sent to the legislative branch to Fox News, which is now the third legislative branch, apparently. So this map, as you'll kind of know, barely touches North Florida, which again, you know, the whole reason behind this redistricting scheme was to give more representation to allegedly underrepresented voters in the census. That would mostly be these North Florida folks in rural Suwannee County, in places outside Tallahassee. Those will be the underrepresented people the most. But instead, you know, we decided to touch Orlando, basically making Darren Soto have a district from Kissimmee to Vero Beach, which is insane, going down to Highlands County. It cracked Tampa, the city of Tampa, into 3 congressional districts. It removes a lot of black representation in Southeast Florida. It's a disaster. It causes our districts to be less compact, less democratic, and also less representative of actual communities.
I don't think they really know like what the fuck they're doing. And I'm looking at other maps. I'm getting maps in real time, you guys. This is how live this is. This is how fresh these maps are. They're happening in real time. Oh, I just did something again. Okay, his phone is very sensitive. But something I want to explain is like, this is with a contingency that Hispanic voters are going to vote the same way they did in 2024. When we have been #1 in rating communities of color in order to target them, to deport them in the country, we just haven't gone viral the way that places like Minnesota have gone viral, because we've federalized every single state agency in order to move these agencies to deport people in massive rates. And so I don't know if the numbers make sense.
Yeah, and I'll pass to Ethan just 1 second, but I want to point out as well, you know, an under-talked about point of this whole map is actually the dilution of college students specifically. You know, in Southeast Florida, we see that at FIU and some other places, them getting redder, them having less democratic representation.
Look at two.
But to be clear as well, you know, looking over here locally, the University of Central Florida will no longer be represented by the first Gen Z member of Congress. It's going to be a Republican. And that is, very sad to see, the fact that our colleges are getting less representation, less of a youth say in their elections. And they're doing that because in the state legislature as well, a lot of these swing districts are dependent on colleges.
Can I talk a little bit of shit though?
Yeah, you do.
It would be nice if we actually had some funding and investment to do student outreach on campus, because there's 60,000 students on just the main campus. So a lot of the organizations like People Power for Florida and Congressman Frost and Youth Action Fund, they're doing it by pinching pennies of independent, donors, rather than like getting an influx. Hakeem Jeffries, after the Virginia vote and when this was leading up, said, we are going to invest heavily in this area, invest in our youth. Because I think last election, UCF had one of the highest rates of turnout.
Right.
And guess what? Our supervisor of elections has literally committed to expanding voter location sites on campus at UCF. And
Right.
so we have an ability to get the utmost turnout that could cancel out a lot of the Republicans that might actually stay at home because they're not happy with what their party's doing.
Yeah.
That's especially going to be the case in the event that this year turns out to be a blue wave year, and that's something that I don't think the Republicans are really banking on, because there's two big things I want to say about these maps as well, aside from the fact that obviously it's going to crack the living crap out of college students, as Matt had pointed out. The first thing I want to note, though, is why Republicans have done this. And it's quite simple, prima facie. They have no idea what the hell they're doing in any level of government whatsoever, because they were voted in to actually address the affordability issues that we've been facing for the past 2.5 years. As it turns out, tariffs are not an answer to the affordability crisis. Neither is making housing more expensive by putting layer upon layer upon layer of preemptions on us. But this then brings me to the blue wave, why I brought this up at first. Daniel Webster, who has been the longest serving House Republican from the state of Florida, resigned yesterday when these maps came out. And he was one of the most ardent opponents of this redistricting effort in the state of Florida, because it would dilute his own vote, his own base, his own district. And that is, Lee, can we go back to that map, please?
Yes.
So, a bit of basic number gaming, if you could see from this map here. There's a lot of red. And it would presume, of course, that all of this is going to go red, like staunchly red, double-digit red. That's not the case, because just by being able to draw all of these districts out, you're going to inevitably spread your numbers so thin. It's like putting jam on toast, basically. I know it sounds weird, but the more
put that on a shirt.
Well, don't do it. I swear down. Please don't. But no, seriously, if you try to spread something out as far as possible, it's going to get as thin as possible. So you're not going to get much of something from, say, District 22 as you would if it were to stay status quo.
We're seeing like 15-point swings in different parts of the country.
Exactly, and you're going from double-digit red safe districts to single-digit lean districts.
You got more fighting potential in those districts. I want to point out, you got to remember Trump in 20 screwed up the census. He deliberately undercounted minority numbers.
He's also an idiot who just doesn't know what the hell he's doing, so he's very much undercounted the census.
Everyone's really pessimistic. I'm actually pretty optimistic about this, because I think they screwed themselves. Because the data was not good in 2020, 21. We just did a redistricting here in Orange County, and I was part of it. The problem is the data is already 6 years stale, and it was already screwed up. So their assumptions on red could be totally screwed up. Orange County's grown by 150,000.
They're scrambling. Eugene, you're making the point as to why we're all here. If we get 10 of our friends to do things like sign petitions, to do things like door knocking, to do things, if we can get our family members to get off the couch and to help us, we could swing these districts in our favor, because they just did us a favor in watering districts down
I want to note
for
as
us.
well is that that Democrats tend to overperform in these midterm years. Of course they do. Republicans suck at government. We've known this for decades, since the Reagan era. So now Democrats have the opportunity to win some of these seats that they may have never represented before.
I just have to be spicy. Like, Obama had Congress, and he also had the Supreme Court, and we could have like really codified gerrymandering in the Voting Rights Act, but we didn't do that. So anyway, just a sidebar.
Yeah. But my point though is this: if Democrats are to win in November, they have to do more than this, because we can all agree that gerrymandering is a stupid, pardon my French, fucking idea.
Oh.
Wow, he's ready for Senate.
Seriously though, am I right? Gerrymandering is one of those things that really should not be happening in a representative democracy. And if you had paid attention to the Senate and House debates, there was one key trope that came up time and time again. With this gerrymander, can we go back to that map, please?
Oh, damn.
Hello,
Damn.
we need to move on here. We got points that we got to make here.
I still got some points.
Fine.
I still got something to say.
In a gerrymandered system like this, what has been done in Texas, and what can arguably have been done in Virginia and California, representatives chose their voters, not the other way around. That is not a representative democracy. That is something akin to an oligarchy, deciding who in their parish gets to vote for the lord that goes up to the goddamn castle every year. That does not make sense in any sort of circumstance, does it?
He told me he doesn't like fame, but he seems
this is
to
what
be.
you get when you put me up
Okay, let's talk about guns.
Wait.
Okay.
Let me say my thing. Let me say my piece. This is the thing I almost got arrested over.
Go.
All right, so, as Ethan kind of mentioned, ultimately, this is happening because having a platform, as I said yesterday, of deporting kids, bombing kids, and trafficking kids is unpopular, right?
Boo.
And, again, thinking about the map as well, here in Central Florida, one of the things I really want to highlight is the fact that our Puerto Rican community, there's basically, if you look up the demographic map, there's basically a circle of our Puerto Rican community here in Central Florida, and they split it into 3. They directly looked at the racial boundaries of our communities, despite claiming, again, this is a race-neutral map, which they kept saying because they knew that the Calais decision was dropping today, in which the decision to gut the VRA was dropped while they were on the House floor.
I swear these people are all in a group chat.
It's French. I don't know
swear.
French. I don't like French people.
They're all in a group chat. They're all like, oh, we're going to drop the decision today. You guys should do their maps.
Yeah.
It'll be great.
And lastly, also, the governor's office admitted in the state Senate hearing, because I hate the guy, but he's good at grilling people, Jason Pizzo, hammed them so hard that they had to admit that it was drawn looking at partisanship, which, as we kind of talked about the whole constitutionality question over and over again, that would make it unconstitutional under the Fair Districts map amendment that voters ratified into our state constitution. So again,
I want everybody to pledge however much your bar tab is, that's how much you're going to donate to ACLU Florida tonight, because they're going to be the ones, thank you, they're going to be the ones suing these maps immediately. They got it ready to go.
Yeah, I agree.
And Equal Ground, like they're ready to go with these lawsuits.
Yeah, we got
Quality
this.
Florida.
Can we talk about guns now?
Fine, we'll talk about guns.
So,
such a fun subject.
I'm sorry, these are not fun themes, but like we are Eugene.
Jesus.
So let's talk about guns because, Matt, part of your story.
We love guns.
The reason why you guys, you have to understand that our youth are undergoing a lot of trauma, and that's the reason why they're so politically plugged in. It's not just, we can't just blame it on our cell phones and say everybody is just so woke because of all the information that they're being exposed to, and so we ban books. It's that we're literally traumatizing our kids. And so Matt's going to share their story.
Damn, okay. Well,
You know, my first action in political organizing was after the Parkland tragedy. I was in middle school. And my aunt called me because called my mom because I lived in Lakeland at the time in Polk County. And she called my mom just crying because she saw on the news Land, Florida school shooting. And at that moment, you know, I knew that I had to do something. So I helped orchestrate a walkout at my middle school. This was I think a week.
How old were you?
Oh God, I don't remember. I was in fucking 8th grade. Something.
Yeah, 12.
Yeah, 12.
14.
Something like that. And you know, at that moment, you know, I knew I had to kind of step up and do something, so I helped orchestrate that walkout at Lakeland Highlands Middle School. And, you know, a few years later, I don't think I actually shared this to you, Lee. You know, when we were graduating high school, in my first year as a freshman, you know, I attended an AP Human Geography class. And we had this classmate named Tiger. And Tiger was this super brilliant student. And a few years later, before graduation, he was shot and killed in a drug deal. And we had to, at our graduation, have an open chair for Tiger and give his mom a diploma. And I think of how deeply that obviously impacts so many Floridians and so many young people. You know, today we see suicides on our college campuses happen all the time because students have access in some places to firearms. And the fact that politicians like Randy Fine want to allow open carry on college campuses. You know, in that intense environment where it is so grueling to be a student with our finances, you know, our grades, you know, the social environment as well. You know, that's deeply disturbing to me. So in this legislative session, the fact that the House, I think in literally their first week of being in session, passed through their chamber, and thankfully the Senate didn't hear it, a complete reversal of the Parkland Survivors Act was one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen. Every single time I went up to testify, bringing students, many of y'all might know one of them, Jacob Lombardo, who is literally an RA at the University of Central Florida, bring people like that up to Tallahassee to just tell our lawmakers that, yeah, it's unfortunate, right, that, you know, sometimes we do need prohibitions on, you know, what can be seen as our rights, right? But, you know, this is for making people actually live and live a happy life. I mean, again, in the Declaration of Independence and Constitution, you know, the main theories that we had in writing both those documents was that every American should have an opportunity to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And none of that can happen if we continue allowing gun violence in our communities. And you know, these two bills tried so hard to reverse any common sense legislation that we had. And I'll say as well, some Democrats voted for these. Some Democrats in Florida voted to reverse our common sense gun control. And I think that's why, you know, fortunately the state Senate knows that kids will die if these bills come into effect. But it's incredibly disturbing that this had to happen. And sorry to keep going on, you know, there was this bill made to basically remove civil liability in the case of, I'm blanking on the specific case of accidental shootings, but this gun manufacturer called Sig Sauer, something like that. Again, Ethan knows the pronunciations. Donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Florida GOP before a fundraising blackout that lawmakers have to take. During session, state representatives and state senators cannot fundraise into their campaign accounts. It's supposed to be an accountability measure so that big corporations can't buy out our state lawmakers. Of course, we see how well that goes. But the fact that they donated hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the reports, because they filed it because session started, I believe, this year, January 15th. So they still had about 2 weeks of the quarter to donate. The fact that they got filed so late into session so that we could tell that our lawmakers got bought out by a gun manufacturer to pass
They don't
this
really
one
care.
bill.
They're like, we're still gonna
is
get elected.
Crazy.
We've rigged all the maps. We're gonna get reelected. We don't
Right.
care.
So fortunately, all this really dangerous gun legislation failed, but it really showcases, the importance of corporate influence on our lawmakers. If, SIG can donate hundreds of thousands of dollars, get one bill almost across the finish line, that should be disturbing for every single issue. And, if we're going to reverse very mainstream legislation that Republicans actually sponsored, with the Parkland Survivors Act, then what else can be attacked? Can certain provisions relating to our universities get prohibited? Yeah, for sure at this point, right? The most basic of basic legislation can be under attack. If a bill that passed with a supermajority vote can somehow now get a supermajority vote to repeal in just a few years.
I do know that we have to wrap up here. It is already 9 o'clock. But yeah, I just want to say as well, it's that we are very much being traumatized, as we had said before. And it's not just from the shootings, it's also from the normalization of them. Because now we have to presume that every day when we go into work or we go to school, there's always a non-zero chance that this shit is gonna happen to us. And that is truly just dystopian. I can go into statistics, I can go into the stories about how Switzerland allows their former professional soldiers to keep their 6-hour 5.52 rifles in their own homes. But I'm not going to do that, because at the end of the day, it is such an inhumane way of living, because it deprives us of true liberty, because we have to live in constant fear of getting shot by something that is meant for war. And I know that there are plenty of responsible gun owners out there as well. It's like, I'm friends with some of them. And we're not trying to ban all guns. We're just trying to make sure that people are responsible with them, because the old adage goes, absolute freedom deprives people of their freedom at the end of the day. And I think gun rights has been a perfect example of that sort of idea. Because if you let people go completely nuts with those guns without any training, without any licensure, people are going to get scared, and they are not going to want to live in a society that constantly hands a 5.56 over their head.
Last but not least, because we want to give these candidates a second to just say who they are and what they're about, we're going to talk about immigration real quick. Luckily, here in Orange County, we were able to actually get out of the IGSA agreement, which is a huge local win. Thank you to everybody who was a part of that. But we can see clearly that Florida is going to continue to use our tax dollars to subsidize some of the most egregious anti-immigration legislation and Alligator Alcatraz and all the other terrible proposals that are coming. Really quick, I just also want to mention that if you say the word aliens around me, you are not my friend.
Yeah.
So don't even go there.
I mean, there's so many crazy immigration stuff that obviously happened this session. Fortunately, a lot of it did kind of not pass necessarily, and in my opinion, seriously, could have been a lot worse than it ended up being, fortunately. But, they did the thing that they did with biological sex in driver's licenses to our immigrant community when they realized that they couldn't pass a bill further regulating our driver's licenses. They just made, the Florida Department of, Highway Safety basically just step in and basically already mandate that applying for a CDA, for example, had to CDL had to be in English specifically, which is such a crazy attack. When filing for office in the near future, you have to now file another form, another document, saying where you're a citizen of, to crack down on people with dual citizenship, and putting that into the public record to, I guess, question their loyalty to our country, which is super disturbing, and kind of just showcases that our country is trying to, our state's intentionally passing a lot of racist policy. One thing I know Lee wanted to mention during this is the fact that our state legislature, again, spent numerous weeks of this 60-day Florida legislative session to rename the West Bank of Palestine to Judea and Samaria in government documents. And, to kind of talk about that issue, first off, passports from the jurisdiction known as the West Bank say West Bank. When we think about, again, all of our Palestinian community members that have been antagonized in the state of Florida, especially throughout this legislative session, told that they really don't have a right to even exist. Quite frankly, again, that apparently they are lower than trash for just existing in the state of Florida. It's clear that the intent is to further genocide and also erasure of our Palestinian community members. And I'll never forget, during this legislative session, there was a child, a teenager, I think he was 14, named Mohammed Mo, who lived in Brevard County, who had to go to the West Bank, right? And he was kidnapped by the IDF. And by the time he got out, he went from, I think, 130 pounds to about 70 pounds because they didn't let him eat. And how disrespectful that is to him, but also the fact that his family that year also had his cousin get murdered also in the West Bank.
Yeah.
By Israeli settlers.
I mean, they punished him if he was caught laughing.
Right. So it's disgusting that we do actually seriously have a strong Palestinian community, especially in the Tampa Bay, which again they're trying to dilute the representation from in our congressional map. And during the whole legislative session, I kept hearing how disrespectful it was to claim that another government's actions were genocidal when they did not care about children like Mo, who were kidnapped and tortured. It's just so disrespectful, again, to our communities to continue to act like they're trash. And also, what does the state of Florida have to do with the West Bank?
I was going to ask, I am so desperate for healthcare. I'm so desperate for property insurance relief. Literally, my property insurance has gone up $1,000 every year since I owned a house in 2023, and I'm my salary hasn't.
Yeah.
And there's been not a single thing, not a single bill. In the time that you have in legislative session to debate and to talk about these types of policies that can bring direct relief, and this is what they're spending their time on?
Yeah, and again, this is a continuation of, for some reason, the state legislature really wants to spend a lot of time renaming things. We saw that earlier this session with the Trump airport. Last session, we saw it with renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which, by the way, in the congressional map that they showed, they actually still call it the Gulf of Mexico, which I had to point out that it's crazy that, they forced her to transition, like how they're claiming that all these parents do their trans kids and all that, but they forced her to transition back. Crazy shit. But it's just nuts to me that we're so focused on renaming other locations, things that we don't have power over, because we're so scared again of those people having any representation in our government. You know, they called that this was an interfaith bill. And sorry, I'm talking a lot about this because I kind of spearheaded a lot of the advocacy against this bill because I thought it was so deranged.
Matt doesn't get paid for this, by the way.
But they called it an interfaith bill because in the Florida House, it was sponsored by a Republican Christian pastor from Volusia County and a Jewish woman from South Florida. Apparently, when we're talking about faith and religion, we can only talk about two of the three major religions at play. And you know, we saw. So sorry to. I'm going to wrap up. I swear. You know, we saw an attempt.
Somebody give me another drink.
Yes, please. At a constitutional amendment to be placed onto our November ballot that would have guaranteed religious freedom. Now, one of the craziest parts of that comment that we saw was, first off, it would have really done nothing. It would have codified the whole moment of silence that we have in our public schools, which is the most dystopian thing alive now. But it would not have actually allowed members of the Muslim faith who specifically wore hijabs to be protected. So we're again thinking about religious freedom for only two of the three major Abrahamic religions. And if we're, again, it's such a tirade against our Muslim community, again, because we lost the one Muslim state representative that we have. And it's so disturbing to see the state of Florida now just antagonize, attack our Palestinian community and our Muslim community every single year, but especially this past one.
Ethan wants to pop off, and then we're closing.
I actually wanted to kind of shift us towards that closing statement because I know we have a lot of final, if you guys are looking at the presentation, there are a number of bills that were actually good, relatively speaking.
I talk less about those.
Yep, but unfortunately,
We're negative Nancy's here.
most of them have died, unfortunately. But even if some of them had passed, it still doesn't paint over just how shit this session has been. Because of everything that the Republicans have been doing to not address our issues, to not address the reasons why we put them in office to begin with. And it just goes to the same playbook that, frankly, both sides have done generally. Now, granted, there are some individuals in, more often than not, the Democratic Party, but even some in the Republican Party who do try to serve their representatives, their constituents, who do try to serve their communities. But they are drowned out by the same partisan, polarizing bullshit that keeps us divided, that keeps us from actually getting at the root cause of every issue that we have in this society.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to break that.
How do we break that, Ethan?
Well, aside from, of course, voting, volunteering, and all the stuff that I'm sure that we will try to absolutely volunteer you to do tonight, the one thing that I would want you all to do tonight is learn. Learn about all the legislation that has been put through this session, because more often than not, they will come back in some way, shape, or form. I want you all to learn about not just your representative, but the representatives of Leon County, of Alachua County, Miami-Dade County, all the representatives at the local, state, and especially federal levels. Because every single one of them are in some way, shape, or form influenced not just by their constituents, but by corporations and the ideological bullshit that comes from on high.
I like the way he says bullshit. He has like a really good, like, bullshit. But like, literally that's why we're here. We're here to sign petitions. We're here to get people elected, and frankly, tip your bartender again, because places like this that allow us to have deep dive conversations about policy and about, partisanship, these places are so rare, you guys. Like, give Stardust like a huge thank you for being one of the few places that allow us to have these types of conversations.
And it goes much further beyond than just signing petitions and pieces of paper in order to get elected, like, on the ballot. You also have to treat every day as if you yourself are running.
I love you.
Because at the end of the day, people. Oh.
You're the best.
Team effort.
Oh.
Ethan does drink, he just doesn't want to.
What do you want?
I'm good.
We're gonna get him trapped.
I don't know how he is.
Trust me, the adrenaline from this alone is keeping me up right now.
Go ahead, Ethan, land your plane so we can get some candidates up here.
Right. Ultimately, treat every day as if you yourself are an elected official or a candidate. Because at the end of the day, the only way democracy survives is if people continue to speak their mind. And for everybody to say what they want to say unabashedly. That way you actually would be able to have the open discourse and challenge each other in a respectful and courteous way. The Republican Party right now, and the Democrats in some regards, do not want you to do that so that they can stay in power and that they can continue enriching themselves at our expense. Now, I know that Matt wants to talk a little more, so I'll just say this.
Damn.
I didn't mean it in a negative way, I'm just saying this. But let me just say this. Do not be afraid to come out to these meetings and to bring people. That's the best way groups like us and this country as a whole can survive.
Thank you, Ethan.
Well, I'm Gib. One last time. Well, again, thank you, Ethan. Thank you, Lee, for everything, and also thank you for buying my drink. And also, Lindsay.
I think it's on my tab.
And Lee.
Yes.
Oh,
Thank
well,
you
who cares?
if it is.
But
Thank you.
But you know, there's a lot of things that you can do. Of course, you know, sign candidate petitions. I see a bunch of friends that have really tried to make a lot of progressive change on these petitions. One other thing that I'll mention is to please join the Democratic Progressive Caucus of Florida. Lindsay,
Ow!
raise your hand.
We're gonna have her come up next.
Over there is the Orange County Progressive Caucus chair. We're really building a movement across the state of Florida that is comparable to when Andrew Gillum was our nominee back in 2018. The last time the state of Florida actually had a potential at shifting the balance of power, when we had somebody who actually stood for progressive policies on the general election ballot. It was actually a Democrat. We went from when I first got elected back in May of last year from 2 chapters, only 2 in the whole state of Florida, Miami-Dade and Polk County. Yes, Polk County had progressive, Imperial Polk County apparently, had chapters, and now we're up to 13 across the whole state of Florida.
Because of Matt.
This year, this month alone, in fact, this past week alone, I heard that 3 new chapters were starting programs, so we'll be about 16 at least by the end of next month. That is, again, comparable to the power and the machine that people like Andrew Gillum built. And today, we have so many progressives running up and down the ballot. I told you about my friend, State Representative Angie Nixon from Jacksonville, who not only just did her demonstration calling out the fact that we were doing an illegal gerrymandering scheme
Thank
today,
God somebody's doing something.
but she stood against it the last time and almost got expelled from the Florida House for sitting in and calling out the fact that our democracy was on the line. So today, we have built a true movement, and we can continue to do that through all of you participating, because democracy is seriously on the line. I mean, we're seeing it with the Florida SAVE Act, we're seeing it with this gerrymandering scheme here in the state of Florida, and we're going to see it again throughout the country, because the biggest thing that we learned come 2022 was the fact that Florida is the testing ground for all of this policy. When we talked about Project 2025, it was Project 2022 in the state of Florida. So when we sit here and we think so hard about the past, I'm always going to remember this quote from Heather Pierre Joseph, who is running for a county commission and used to be the Democratic Haitian Caucus chair. When we sat at a county commission meeting speaking out against the IGSA and ICE agreement, she told me Martin Luther King Jr. would have hated this shit. He would have been so mad that we sat there and gave public comment for only 30 seconds when people are being sent to concentration camps that the state is making memes out of, calling Alligator Alley, that he would have had us sit in the room singing songs to force them to vote to terminate the agreement in the first place. And unless we build a true infrastructure, an infrastructure that builds a future where freedom isn't just this sexy freedom,
that we think of so hard
It's
about
not,
the
it's not a
patriotic
hashtag freedom. It's
but
real
the
freedom.
freedom to live, the freedom to actually have financial stability, to not have to be scared of school shootings, to not have to be scared of not having financial stability, of being scared of going to the gas pump to pay $50 just fill up your tank. That is the freedom that I think we ultimately want to have. So please join the Democratic Progressive Caucus of Florida. I know Lee's got the information up here.
Follow Matt for Florida on Instagram. Not running for office.
I'm
right?
not running for office anytime soon at all. Not at all. But I just believe so fundamentally that we can get there when we continue to build community, when we continue to build space, and when we build a future of actual freedom. Thank you all.
Round of applause. So, we are recording and streaming, and I have a personal list of like 30,000 people on my newsletter. I want to express something to you. Like, I am fucking nobody. Like, nobody knows who I am. I came from the projects. You guys only know me because I email you a lot. But like literally. Yeah, but it's only because I text all my friends. I budget it into my time. So that's what I want you all to think about. How can you budget a piece of this solution to all this madness we explained to you into your time? Just like you would going to the gym or taking your dog out for a walk. You're budgeting your time. And it doesn't need to be a lot if we're all in this together. What I think would be super beneficial is if around the time when early voting starts, you open up your phone and you start going through all your contacts of all your friends and you just say, hey, touching base, would love to go get coffee, but before I do, are you registered to vote? Have you sent in your vote by mail ballot?
It's too late. It's too late.
Well, okay, Eugene, okay, we're gonna do it even earlier. Let's do it tonight. Let's do a phone and text bank tonight after we've had a couple more drinks. Now I'm gonna stand up because I'm getting lit. I need you all to understand how important this year is, because if you think you are no one and that you have no voice and that you have no say, any of you can fill a room like I did tonight and talk about these issues, even if it's just like getting people, taking some of these petitions home with you and doing a slumber party and providing free liquor and having your friends all come over and hopefully signing their signature correct after that. You can do it. And if you can get these grassroots candidates to get on the ballot without having to spend $10,000 or $5,000, then you are one step closer to getting real representation. Because like I said, I don't give a fuck if there's a D or an R next to your name. If you're taking hundreds of thousands of dollars of PAC money and being hand-delivered legislation and moving it through our legislature, you're not with the people. And so it's on us to change that. And with that, I'd like to invite some folks to come up who are running for office or running an organization. And first I see in my line of sight, Eric Yonts, who's here, who's running for Congress. Congress. How many of you have woken up and just said, I'm running for Congress? This guy did it. Yes. Tell us about you.
So,
1 minute.
1 minute, I'll just say the name, Randy Fine.
Boo!
The first name here numerous times. If you do not know who he is, just Google search him, and you'll find some great words that he has said over the past. I will say that our district, District 6, is flippable. It will flip. I will
Even
flip
with the new maps?
It does not affect District 6 right now, at all. They didn't
Okay.
change a thing. They're thinking it's safe.
It's competitive.
And it is not. I have been around the district. I have grown up in the district. I love that part of Florida. And a lot of people are pissed off and ready for change, even Republicans that have voted for Randy Fine. I will tell you that. So we will change it this year. It takes this right here. It takes this, what we're doing. It takes everyone showing up every day, especially in these rural areas, places like Putnam County, Flagler County that haven't had representation that show up. They want it. They're hungry for it. And so I just tell you, what we're doing here matters. And we need to sign petitions. We need all the help we can get because Randy Fine doesn't do any of this. He's not campaigning. He's not out and about. We'll make a difference here. So thank you.
And if you really like me, I'm actually moderating a panel with Eric on May 4th at 8 p.m., which you can find on Eric Jantz's Instagram.
Is it going to be Star Wars themed?
No.
And I have a podcast, and his episode is dropping on Sunday. I feel so bad because it takes a couple weeks to get them out, and the news has been so dense that a lot is going to be not reflected in. Like the Iran war had just started when I had you on, and now it's like another thing. I'd like to invite Lindsay up here. Where did my friend Lindsay go?
Lindsay! You can tell I have happy drinks.
Lindsay's episode just dropped last Sunday, so please check out Organizing the Victory. It's actually one of the highest performing episodes I've ever done. What am I doing? You're going to talk about the hub and the Progressive Caucus, and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Snyder. I'm the chair
Ow!
of the Progressive Caucus.
Step into the light.
A disciple of Perry. I'm also a member of Orlando 5051, and I lead the candidate support guild there. We meet at the Progress Hub every Thursday from 8 p.m. or 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the First Unitarian Church. This is a really cool opportunity to just hang out with interesting people. Enjoy the potluck. There's usually a class or somebody speaking on something. And actually, this Thursday,
More me.
Own is going to be speaking there.
In a nonpartisan way.
In a nonpartisan way, because everything there is done nonpartisan. Also, the Orange County Progressive Caucus meets the third Monday of every month. And this next meeting in May, May 17th, is going to be Jane Amon. Will be guest speaking.
Sorry,
And
I'm trying to get
If
there.
you haven't signed a petition, please do.
She's here.
So we can be done with these things. Thank you, everyone.
Yay!
Lindsay. No, nobody's going to do it. Okay.
My clicker's dying, but I'm going to put up, we're also doing a rural boundary town hall in Seminole County because all these land use bills that have been eradicating our local control have been targeting places like Seminole and Orange County who have implemented a rural boundary. So take a picture of that slide if you want. Who else is running for office? Come on up here.
3 candidates. We got Lee. We got
Give them a round of
Stephanie,
applause.
We got Stephanie. We got Aaron. We got Royal.
I'm so excited to hear your platform.
Not enough time for that, but I will tell you the reason I'm here is 2 weeks ago, exactly today, I was at the OC Dems meeting, and I came here actually to listen to Matt because he asked Stephanie Murphy a question that just impressed me so much. I said, I gotta listen to this guy a lot more, right? That's number one. It's been a busy 2 weeks.
It really has.
12 days ago, I met with CARE, so now I'm a domestic terrorist.
Good. Welcome to the club. Welcome.
Everybody deserves to be listened to, and everybody deserves a voice. And by the way, there's 0.06 or 0.6% of Muslims in Florida. That's it.
Yeah.
Then 9 days ago, I got endorsed by the Orange County Environmental Caucus. Yesterday, Daniel Webster, who is the current congressman, dropped out of this year's race, and Anthony Sabatini, that's a horrible human being.
He's easy to beat.
Yeah, and then today, with the map dropping, I went to Samuel's event first, and I met with Rita Davis because District 44 is now part of the 11th. The 11th now goes from Hunters Creek all the way up to the villages, and it dropped Polk County. So it's a huge area. Met with her. We're going to talk about her district and see how we can work. I can work that. But thank you very much.
What are you running for?
Oh, 11th Congressional District. Go to electoralwebster.org and you can read about my platform there. Thank you.
And
He has a good TikTok following.
I'll say why I asked Stephanie too. I asked Stephanie Murphy why 4 days after January 6th she voted to not condemn illegally bombing Iran from the Trump administration, and how she plans to safeguard Orange County from Donald Trump when she couldn't even condemn his war crimes. And apparently that does not actually represent what caused the new Iran war, apparently, according to Stephanie Murphy. So
who knows?
I do want to mention that I will be teaching people how to check campaign contributions, and that'll be our next event. And it's going to be extremely exciting when you look at the mayoral race for Orange County. But Stephanie Ziegler, can you please come up here? Woo! One of my favorites. We have a lot of, you have to understand one thing. I'm just going to go on a mini rant. If you go to run for office, it is a huge sacrifice on your personal life, on your personal finances, and on your mental health. And so I'm so grateful for the people who are standing up and actually wanting to do it. So thank you, Stephanie.
Stephanie.
Stephanie, he's trying to get a chant going.
Nobody's
She
chanting.
never tells us that we're going to talk, and then she shocks us.
Not expected.
I did that to Christy 5 minutes ago.
This is my third event tonight, and you obligate small business. Buy something every small business you go, and at the end of the night you're like Uber.
Tip your bartender.
So, yeah. My name is Stephanie Ziegler. I'm running for Orange County Commission District 3, and people ask me all the time, like, how's it going? What are you learning? I have learned that there are expectations on candidates. There's expectations of candidates that they have on money and time and experience, and I don't really fit into that box. I'm a working mom. I have 2 children. I run a nonprofit. I volunteer on 3 nonprofit boards, and my volunteers all work, and they're PTA moms, and they come from their job at the bar, and they knock doors with me, and it's hard work, and we're working every single day. So we may not hit the typical numbers, but we're hitting numbers, and I'm so proud of the work we're doing in this, this campaign. And one of the things that I keep coming back to, and I'm looking at something I've been working on, but is I really feel like my campaign is about recentering the people in our neighborhoods, recentering the working class communities, recentering our small businesses and the neighbors that feel like they've been pushed out of the conversations. And I hear it every single day. I have never worked inside the system. I've always worked outside the system alongside people who are dealing with the system. And I figured, why don't I jump in and see if I could do something about it? So I'm Stephanie Ziegler. I'm running for Orange County Commission District 3. I need petitions. If you haven't done it, visit me at voteziegler.com. Thanks.
One thing I want to mention that we didn't actually get to talk about is that Senator Carlos Guillermo Smith, the guy who officiated my wedding, is that guy over there.
That's crazy. So crazy.
Year over year, he has tried to pass a diversification of our tourism development tax, and he hasn't been successful yet. But we get a little bit closer, and obviously my boss mom, Kelly Martinez Semrat, has been one of the most vocal people on diversifying our tourism development tax. Imagine if we had a full board like Stephanie, who are vocal about diversifying our tourism development tax, because we have 75 million tourists that come here, who spend money, who use our roads, who use our landfill, who flush toilets and use our water. And all we could do is funnel that money into marketing with Visit Orlando and arenas and convention centers. Come on, you guys. They use our roads, they use our landfill. We could be filling the gap on a lot of the deficits that we have. And Stephanie has been unapologetic in her stance. And so I'm super grateful for
Thank you for reminding me
doing that.
my talking points that I said.
No. I mean, I only gave you a minute, so you know. And now I'd like to welcome Aaron Emmanuel Lewis. He has a really great looking logo, if I must say. But
whoever made it deserves it.
Very, very good looking logo.
All right, hello everybody. My name is Aaron Emmanuel Lewis, and I am running to be the first Orange County Commissioner for the brand new District 7. Let me first go ahead and I'm still getting used to my face right now. I actually was just diagnosed with Bell's palsy last night, And so half my face is paralyzed, and I'm learning how to talk this way for a little bit. But what I want to talk about tonight is what I'm running on. I'm not going to go through my platform because you can learn about that at voteaaronlewis.com. But what I do want to tell you is I'm running to be a fighter for this community. And when I say to be a fighter for this community, I mean going above and beyond. We just got back 2 weeks ago from a trip to Washington, D.C., where we sat down with 10 legislators fighting for immigration reform, fighting to abolish ICE and to create a pathway to citizenship. Why? Because even though I am running to be a county commissioner, my district is full of immigrants who are being affected by these policies. And I am tired of the Orange County Commission and the Orlando City Commission saying that's a federal problem and there's nothing that we can do about it. What you can do is get off your ass and go and advocate for us in Washington, D.C. And that's exactly what I will do as your next county commissioner for Orange County. We are going to make housing affordable. We are going to fix public transportation. We're going to stop families from having to rebuild their home every time a storm comes through this county. And we're going to make sure that life in Orlando is not just great for those who are visiting here, but for those who make it possible for people to visit Orange County. And so please visit my website at voteaaronlewis.com. I also have my petitions out. We are almost there to qualify for the ballot, so please, if you have not signed the petition, donate to the campaign, and let's make sure we stack this board with people that are truly going to fight for the residents. Thank you, guys.
Good job. I mean, there's 15 people in that race. 15 people.
And he's the best.
And I have to say that not everybody is going to qualify by petition. And so it's a symbol of people power when you actually get petitions across the finish line. And so that's why this whole stack is just for Aaron. And we want you to take a stack to your friends and get it signed. Any other candidates or union members or people who have an event that you want to advertise, raise your hand or forever remain silent.
Quick thing, Lee. Anybody in Florida can sign a petition for Congress, and anybody registered to vote in Orange County can sign any petition for an Orange County Commission race. I know obviously it's so confusing now that we have county redistricting and now congressional, so just want to make that clear for folks.
I tell people sign it anyway, and even if it gets thrown out, if it's 10 cents, it's 10 cents. You know, just be sure that you get it in, because May 11th is the deadline to get these petitions in. And so, like, if you want to take a stack home and bring it back to me personally, I will make sure it gets in the hands of the candidates before May 11th. Corinne, get in here, girl. This is my girl. She's everywhere. She's just wearing this logo for tonight, but she's literally wearing a lot of hats.
Because I care about the environment. Do I just not? Yeah. So I just want to point out, if anybody really cares about the environment, we do have an environmental caucus here in Orange County, and we really want a lot of support. We really want your help. Once the land goes, once the trees go, once nature goes, once our animals go, we can't get them back. And we only have a finite amount of land. The earth is only so big, and people with money just don't care. They let the developers go in and just build and build and build. They take their money, they move on, and they leave us with the repercussions. So if you care at all about the environment, please check out our website, our Facebook page. We're very active. You can get on our newsletters. You can get as involved as much or as little as you want, but every little bit helps. Thank you.
Wait, Lee.
When am I running you? Like, what are you running?
I'm not running, I'm just helping.
Can we recruit her? Can we volunteer her tonight to run for something?
Lee, really quick. Sorry, I've had too many drinks, folks, so I have to get up here again. My friend Maxwell Alejandro Frost, who's our congressman, our first Gen Z congressman, and the co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus nationwide, is actually hosting what I've been told, I don't know if I'm supposed to say it, his campaign kickoff on May 9th It's a salsa event with Congressman Robert Garcia. So it's Saturday, May 9th, 10:30 a.m. at Grape and Grain, which I know the Environmental Caucus hosted a bunch of events at previously. So come out, support our congressman, especially because he has a completely new district now without UCF. 10:30 a.m.
9.
It says 10:30.
9 a.m. We're gonna be salsa eating.
Ethan, we're not salsa dancing at fucking 9 a.m. on Saturday, dude. I don't know what you're talking about. But also, if you bring 10 petitions to that kickoff, you actually get a free ticket. It's, I think, 25 without the petition. So collect those petitions and get our congressman on the ballot.
He's one of the few people that will lay his body on the line to like stop
May
ice
9th,
or
10:30
stop
a.m.
whatever.
at Grape.
Anyway, thank you guys so much. We ran really long, so I'm so grateful that you're still here.
And it's until
Please
1
drink.
p.m.
Please
I
tip
still
your
got it.
bartenders, and frankly, thank you so much to these young people. I'm 36, you guys. I'm 36. These are 20-something-year-olds that are like so knowledgeable.
And I told
She's
her,
old.
You're 36? Hey. But I feel it in my back. But anyway, please tip your bartenders and thank you so much. And please sign a petition, take it stacked. This is our chance, you guys. This is our chance. If anybody is going to do it, it's going to be the progressive people because Republicans hate money in politics. So they will listen to us. If we tell them we have candidates that are willing to speak up and fight, they will vote. They want to drain the swamp, remember? It's just their original plan didn't go so well. So let's show them an alternative.
Thank you. Thank you. I tried.
Good to see you, Laura. So, one of the